Hey there, listener. Welcome to the Deep Share Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Rouse, and for the last couple of decades, I've slowly been opening my eyes to a very different world than the one I grew up hearing about. And the more conversations I have with interesting people, the more mystifying this world becomes. So without further ado, let's get deep.
We've got science to celebrate! Demons bliss now! After what, baby? Come on!
There is rebellion in the wind. It will be crushed.
Everything I've said is true. It's real.
Dinosaur fossils? God put those here to test our faith.
A damn lie. I saw them with my own eye.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
We did illusions, man! None of it is true!
I'm not insane!
This is mass madness, you maniacs! In God's name, you people are the real thing! We are the illusion!
What's up, brother? Yeah, I can.
All
Can you hear
right.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, man. How's it going?
Awesome. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too, man. I'm glad we got to do this. I was about to oh shit, we're both running late. It's not gonna happen, but I'm glad we both got here.
I know. I was kind of thinking that too. I got caught up at the. I went and met up with some people, these health freedom folks,
Oh yeah?
and just talking about these protests we're going to go to tomorrow, up in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And then went to a taco stand, and I was like, I got caught up talking to the guy who runs the taco stand, telling him, "Vacuna es muy mal." Vacuna es muy mal. I'm always there with my sombrero, and I usually have a sign with me that says, "COVID-19 vaccine makers are exempt from liability." So I'm always there with that sign, and I've been getting tacos from this guy for a few months now.
That's awesome.
And I always tell them no mascarilla, you know, cause I care about these folks, you know. I've actually developed a relationship with this guy, and I see him masking himself and he knows it's BS, but he's doing it for his customers.
Right.
You know, he has this little taco stand in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's from El Salvador, so naturally these people that are from these other countries are a little more timid. You know, so, and they're they just want to do whatever they need to do to stay in this country. So they don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers. You know what I mean? So they're just going along with anything these people say, not because they agree with it, but because of the possible repercussions, where it's we have Americans that are working as nurses, and they're being told that they have to take this vaccine. I shouldn't even call it that. It's an experimental gene therapy, right? Emergency use authorized, not FDA approved. And it's hurting people. We have the numbers to back it up from their own website. And these people are being forced to take it, Americans. So these people from El Salvador, my girlfriend's from El Salvador, and her brother and her nephew just went there, and they didn't have to take the gene therapy, but they did have to take they had to take a test, produce a negative result, wear a mask on the flight, and then get their temperature scanned. So that's why I'm late. Long story short was because I was trying to tell him and his worker there that, because he was saying that they had to get vaccinated to go back to El Salvador and come back to the US. And I was like, no, that's not true.
Not yet.
not yet. Right. Exactly. And you and I both know that's where it's going. But
yeah, it's hard not to see where the tracks lead when you're just staring at them all the time.
Oh man. Yeah. It's pretty wild. It's pretty overwhelming to some degree, but
especially trying to talk to people that don't see it that way. It's, we've become better orators because of it. I would say, we're forced to suss it all out and make sure we're like you saying about the sign you were wearing, that's great.
more and more this year, I've heard more podcasters and content creators talking more and more about taking action, even if it's pamphlets or wearing signs around your neck or something, just to bullet points or something.
You should see, you'll find some videos on my channel where I'm like, I wear the sign. It's like a 2 foot by 2 foot sign and I'm wearing it as a necklace. I got banned from my local farmer's market in Charlotte for the sign.
I did see that. Yeah. I didn't think it was just for the sign. That's ridiculous.
I had my camera and the sign, and the market manager was pissed because I didn't pay. She kept saying, like, I have it all on video of the interaction where she was trying to get me to take it off before she called the cops. I have that whole video that I'm going to post eventually. I'm so far behind on videos because I don't even have a place to live. I'm like couch surfing right now. I'm at my friend's house. I'm like technically
You're doing
like
the deep work, man.
Dude, I'm like technically
We're out there
homeless.
on the streets.
I'm like technically homeless because of my conscience, to be honest. I was working for CVS. I heard you mention you have a full-time job right now. Who are you working for?
I work for the back end of a construction company.
Okay.
And it's much better than where I was. I'll tell you that, because I was in like corporate lockdown pretty much with my last industry. So this is a different world. It's nice. But go ahead. Go on.
That's good. Yeah, but I'm basically homeless because I have a crisis of conscience that I'm dealing with, where I took a leave of absence from CVS back in February because I just couldn't sit behind the screen and like for one more second of my life and participate in genocide basically. And I couldn't in good conscience like work another second for them. And I walked away, basically told them I was having a hard time mentally, which I actually was, because dealing with all this has been crazy.
Yeah.
My entire family got the shot. My brother's getting pressured and coerced to take the shot. Like so much so that it's so crazy, man. My cousin and my brother they were like tight once, and they like lived together. And my cousin lives in Nevada with his wife and his daughter, who's like probably 4 now or something. And she has a relationship with my brother. They've met and they're really friendly, and my brother loves her. And my cousin sends my brother a text message I don't know, 6 weeks ago or something. Hey, we're coming back to visit the family, coming back to Massachusetts to visit the family. He's like, but we're only seeing vaccinated people. And so then he said, so take the jab so we can see you. That's what my cousin said to my brother. And I'm just like, my brother's telling me this, and I'm just like, oh, my heart's crushed. Like, this is exactly, even though my heart's crushed, I'm still holding out hope, because I talked to so many people, and there's very few people that have told me they're getting this thing.
Yeah, same here.
Almost everyone I talk to on the street, like in real life, outside of the propaganda machine, people are responding well to these signs that I'm carrying. Like on my car, I have stickers all over my car, and it's a picture of Bill Gates, and he's holding a vaccine, and it says "Your body, my choice" on it. So like when I'm just driving along through Charlotte, like people are like honking at the sign, and they're like, "Yeah, man." I was like, so I think there is a shift, but ultimately we're not seeing the kind of pushback in the US that we're seeing in places like France and Germany and Spain and Ireland, even Australia now to some degree. They're rising up. So I mean, there really is
about time.
I know they've been under the boot.
That's the thing. We've had it more on like the subtle magician's level. You know what I mean? Like, not that it's not in our faces, but yeah, they're going about it a little bit differently, where it's weird that in some of those countries you're mentioning, like I get, because I've heard stories from Gordo over, those conspiracy guys, him talking about what's going on in Ireland. It's so on the nose. It's just like, they're cosplaying the 1940s. Like, it's crazy. And in Australia the same way. So thank God that you're seeing that they're rising up over there, because what the fuck. And over here we're kind of getting it on a more like a coercion sort of thing. Like it seems like they're allowing, maybe by accident, they're allowing their people to kind of unite against them in a way where we don't get that. We get the controlled opposition to create the two opposing forces that the puppet masters are kind of controlling the winds of both anyway. And maybe it's because we have access to some of the best schools and we have some of the brightest minds. Who knows? I don't know why they feel that our propaganda or the way that they're going to control us has been so like subversive compared to what we're seeing in these other countries. What do you think of that?
Actually, it's exactly, I think it's a combination of things. Like something that comes to mind when you talk about those things is, I think Bertrand Russell, there's a quote that a lot of people will refer back to where it says something like diet, injection, and injunctions will serve to be, or to produce the kind of character that the authorities consider desirable, that will make any sort of legitimate opposition, like socially or morally, basically impossible through, just our diets, vaccines, injections, or he's talking about there, and then mandatory compulsory education and schooling. And then that was before like GMOs and, mass, worldwide spraying programs through geoengineering, which they openly admit to right now. I think you're muted.
Yep.
But yeah, which they openly admit to these geoengineering programs now, and where people like us have been trying to warn about it for a number of years or however long you've been doing it. Like me, I've only been in this game for a couple of years now, where I started, like my whole waking up process started with the trails in the sky, because I just started to look up a couple, and paying attention, and I was like, what is that? And then I see a documentary, what in the world are they spraying and why in the world are they spraying? And then I saw Shade the Motion Picture. And then you go and you see NASA documents like own the weather by 2025.
Yeah.
And
you hear scientists talking about weather modification from back in the 70s in certain interviews. It's like, wait, what? Okay. So they were openly, that means it existed long before that. Because they don't usually talk about anything until it's like, we gotta tell them,
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I'm pulling up this Collier's magazine cover where it says weather made to order. And this was back in the 50s.
Jeez.
Weather made to order. I want you to pull it up because it's just, back in as late as the 40s, is to my knowledge, is how far it goes back. Here it is. Let's see. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able. Maybe I have to allow that. I'm not sure. Let's see. Allow to record. Might have to. Usually, like it's something will like pop up in my face and be like, "Hey,
let me try. Try. Share. Oh, here we go. Looks like it's gonna let me.
Okay, cool.
So check this out.
Oh, that's gonna be good.
1955.
Wow. Weather made to order by Navy Captain H.T. Orville. That name. Ice advisor reports man's progress in weather control. See, this is incredible because like it just, what it brings to mind? You ever play the game Fallout? Like Fallout 4?
No, I haven't.
So for those listening that do know Fallout, and for you that doesn't, like Fallout is this post-apocalyptic future, but it's so 50s cornball because that's when the nukes hit and everything. It's like fail-safe era, right? So maybe Fallout and some of these modern post-apocalyptic movies are like right on the nose with like how long we've had this crazy sci-fi technology. We had a gigabit processor in the early 70s, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember who produced it, but it was someone famous. Anyway.
Yeah, it's just like these people. It's right there for us to see. They're not really. It's not that difficult. Like I want you to hear this little video clip too. Just listen to this from LBJ.
It lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the
Earth's cloud layer.
World's cloud layer. and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
The Grand Illusion.
Dude,
wow.
He who controls the weather will control the world. It's like right there for us, I mean, they're not hiding it.
No, that's the thing. They never
we're also
hide
medicated and in trauma, and we haven't looked at ourselves close enough, so we can't see through our own bullshit.
Yeah, it's funny because like when I was younger, I remember like self-inspection and diving within was not like I wasn't raised to think this, but just the general culture I was surrounded by, like, that's pussy, that's lame, that's useless, like, don't do that, stuff it all down in here and forget it exists, let it bubble up 20 years from now, like that just seems like
so successful.
Like the entire Western world is kind of wound up that way. And I feel as though kind of like the same way on an individual level, on a cultural level, we're going to have to deal with this big, like, psycho introspection of our species. And maybe we're going through that right now. Maybe this is that, like, that, oh my God, what is my life? But for the human species itself, maybe
totally extrapolated out to everyone.
As above, so below, right?
I experienced this past year, man. I was really going through it last year with not sure if I wanted to be here. I had these plant medicine experiences that during 2020 of all years, like just going deep within.
Yeah. So before you get, let's do that. Let's get into who you are too, because so to let my audience know a little bit of background first, and then we'll dive into all of that.
All right, cool.
Who are you, man?
My name's Andy Girard. I'm from Massachusetts, and I'm ready to live finally, man, and it feels good. I've been through a lot, like many of us, like all of us have, had a bad heroin addiction, like 7-8 years, something like that. And then I wasn't sure if I wanted to be here, even as I was recovering from those things. And I met my girlfriend in 2019, and that like helped keep me like on track to like want to be alive. And then I found plant medicine in December 2019, and it was beautiful. Me and my brother had a little had a I didn't take much, probably 1.5 grams or something like that, and just kind of got me in the door to like starting to feel a little bit better, because it like helps heal your brain. I did so much damage to my brain with all these pills, man. I used to take like 30, 40, 50, 60 pills at once. Like, it was fucking wild. It was a wild ride. Wow. And to like, these people, my friends are like looking at the hat. They just love it. And my friend Dan loves this hat.
Good. It's like your superhero cape. I love it.
Dude, I like to have fun, man. I like to make people laugh, and everything that's going on is pretty fucking serious, but I still want to like enjoy myself and not live in fear, because that's what they want,
Exactly.
And I've always what's crazy about the hat too is like people are like, oh man, you controlled opposition. They're like, you're wearing that crazy hat, and I'm like, come on, I got fucking 35 subscribers. I got like 500 now, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the hat's been on since day one. It wasn't like I came out with some extensive discovery of research or something. It was like, oh yeah, I got names, I got places. Like,
oh, that's great.
I'm just trying to figure out the world. And the hat. What I like about the hat is like, it tends to take the temperature down in the room. When you like, because everyone's so divided right now, where like the hat sort of, it just takes people's guards down. Like, even when I try to, how bad the communication has been with people because of the masks.
Mm-hmm.
Even people wearing masks will be like, oh, I love the hat. So then I'll try to talk to them as like, I'll kind of use that when I just go out and, wear my sign into Walmart and tell people not to take the vaccine.
That's awesome, man. The hat's kind of like opening a few more doors than normally would be there,
Yeah, but it's hilarious
don't
when
have
people,
that.
It's so funny when people are like, "Are you controlled opposition?" I'm like, are you kidding me?
You know, I was actually kind of concerned that that would end up happening to me just from being for plant medicine and stuff, because you know how like there's a good portion of the new age movement that's kind of probably been infiltrated deeply over the years by bad actors, and a lot of people in our community totally know that. And I feel like a lot of the good aspects that the bad actors kind of ruin the reputation of, like it's all kind of lumped together on accident. Like the psychedelic experience itself, I've heard a number of people like kind of act as if that's part of the like programming and stuff. It's like, brother, that's in here. That happens between me and myself. No deep state is you know, going back in time and planting mushrooms everywhere. You know what I mean?
That's an ancient true healer. Like I would probably tell people to stay away from LSD. Then again, I'm not going to tell anyone to do anything with their life. We're all grown-ups here. We all have life experience, and we're supposed to use discernment and our intuition and you know, deep research and things like that to make decisions for our lives. But I tend to say, probably you should stay away from the lab grown stuff. But I mean, these mushrooms, I know, like it got me out of a dark place, like of, you know, really truly understanding who I was and discovering who I was. I you know, they use that term ineffable because there aren't any words to describe what you experience when you have these really transcendental experiences where you go back and, you know, you get informed about who you are and what happened to you, and you're sort of forced to confront it. You know, unless you want to have a really bad time, turn around and run away from it, because it's gonna sort of press you throughout the course of that experience to go down that dark hallway and see what's there. And because the only way we get over
work.
yeah, man, whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
But the only way we face and conquer our fears is to fucking face them head on.
Isn't it funny too how in, like, you know, in this community, a lot of us like to talk about the inversion that like is kind of placed out there all the time for all of us to kind of see how our symbols have been twisted around, everything. And more than that, isn't it funny that normal reality without that psychedelic influence, it's the total opposite. It's if you push everything serious that you should be concerned with down and away, you can live out this blind, ignorant, happy life and pretend it doesn't, you know what I mean? Whereas in that mode of consciousness, you're going to have an absolutely horrible time if you're trying to avoid it, because it's just, if you have shit that you need to deal with, that will be painted on the walls everywhere. You know, it's crazy how that inversion kind of is there too, where I felt that way.
We're living through it right now, where I think what we're seeing is the result of a lot of people not wanting to heal his wounds, because it fucking hurts, dude.
Yeah, it does. It
hurts bad, and some people have been terribly wronged. You know,
I have people that I love going through a lot of soul searching right now, and I know that everything's going to be okay, but that road is so brutal and vicious, you know, and it takes time.
It's a bumpy ass fucking ride, you know.
Right, and I try to tell them, like, the longer you try to force your healing, that it's going to probably take longer. It's like grasping water, you know.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful thing, man, when you go from a place of, you know, that darkness to light. You know, that's ultimately what we're trying to do with all this stuff, is shine a light in a dark room, you know, and lead the way out. It doesn't take everyone, but everything all of us do really matters, no matter what it is. Our actions have consequences one way or the other. And I think the best way to go about healing is like to know, like what happens to us when we're kids, it's not our fault, but when we're older, it's on us to deal with it. Because if we trust these doctors or someone else to help us get better, it's just not going to happen. You got to want it internally, deeply. And when you do that, and you're kind and sort of gentle on yourself when you go back and evaluate those things, because that's what you need to be. You can't kick yourself in the teeth, man. Yesterday is gone. Everything that happened up to this point is gone. So you can decide to change from that point going forward. But in order to understand yourself, like, the problem is these memories get suppressed and they get buried. Many people don't even know that they're there. Right? That's what trauma does. It just, that's what our brains do. They always say it's a defense mechanism, and I sort of like,
for who? The ego? Like, Jesus.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, because like, who is it really hurting? Like, what kind of evolutionary trait is survival if this isn't part of it, to like face your shit and take care of it? It's weird.
Yeah, so you can move forward,
Yeah. How is that not like part of that evolution,
Yeah, it's strange how that works, because the mind and the brain, and we're just such intelligent beings that, I mean, there's got to be some reason for it. They say it's so you can function, and I always say, oh well, is that really like life though? If you're just functioning as functioning in dysfunction, really.
Right.
You're getting up in the morning, you're going to work and stuff, but internally you're a mess. You're not really functioning at all. It's just delaying true healing if it's something. I mean, I think that's kind of why we're here, is to heal those wounds, these intergenerational wounds. And some of us, whether you believe we incarnate here or reincarnate here, it's like, we're here now in this experience, and we can't prove any of these things, but we can try to live differently and not hurt people. And it's like, it's just crazy to me, like how like people like us are like the most peaceful, loving people more often than not. We're just asking questions to be called these domestic terrorists or extremists. And you even have people like my own mother last year who was blaming me. She's like, oh, if you and your friends would just wear a fucking mask, this whole thing would be over. And I'm like, Mom, like, I love you so much, but where did you get that idea from? That's not your original thought. Like, if I asked you what you think about this, you wouldn't say that. But you just heard the TV repeat that over and over and over again, just like they're doing now with it's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks.
Yep, we've been saying that for a long time.
Yeah, and we've been saying this stuff since so most of us, or a lot of us, have been saying it since the beginning last year. Where it's no mask, no service today turns into no vaccine, no service tomorrow, and here we are. And these are some of the things we've said a year ago, and people were species with amnesia. That's how good this mind control is. It was literally part of, like, during the 60s. I don't know if have you ever heard of the Esalen Institute?
No, I haven't. At least not the name, not by name.
Yeah,
it's with names.
It's an let me see so I don't totally bungle this.
California, right?
Yeah, California. Big Sur.
Right.
Yeah. Big Sur. It was basically like MK Ultra programming, like a think tank for MK Ultra for the 21st century.
Oh, interesting.
And basically there was a research paper that came out of there, and here it is. Let me see. Yeah, there was this research paper called Mind War, and it came out of this Esalen Institute. Here we go, 1962. Let me share this screen. This is some crazy research, actually. Mind War paper that came out of Esalen. We could talk about that for a few minutes if you want.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm down to shoot the shit about whatever, as long as we get to promoting what you're doing.
Yeah. We totally will. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to share my screen. Yeah, that's right.
This is our nerd out portion of the episode where we get to know each other by
how long have you been podcasting? Like
I've only been doing this show since like February, but I've been talking like this and yelling about all this crap for quite a while. But I, like you, am in recovery as well. I was an alcoholic, and I kind of put myself there because I gave up on the world because of all the shit that was in my head that no one else, I couldn't relate to anybody. The online community did not exist like it does today. None of this stuff existed. So thank God for like my wife who pulled me out of it, my son, but, and also to all of this community that I've been able to bounce ideas off of and not feel as crazy. You know what I mean? So
that's awesome, man. How did you, would you like to talk about how you got better? You said your wife and your kid, that obviously helped, but
I think that was the cheat code right there, having a kid. Yeah, because without a kid, I probably would have lost my wife. I probably would have not been able to convince myself it was worth convince drunk self that it was worth giving it up. You know what I mean? Because drunk self, heroin self, they're evil fucks, and all they want is for themselves, you know. They're
not doing good things for this meat vehicle that we live in, you know?
right
or our eternal souls either, you know.
No, not at all.
I suppressed my voice for so long, and I isolated myself and didn't, you know, I got high with a few friends, and I traveled a little bit, you know, and I was like a functioning addict, if you will, for a number of years. So I did get to do like a lot of cool things. So it wasn't 100% all bad, but towards the end there where, you know, I was saying 40, 50, 60 pills at once, like, God damn, son, talk about an indifference to life.
I have a friend that was doing about that same. That's why it doesn't totally shock me, even though it is shocking. I had a friend doing that same thing, and luckily he's completely clean now, and he's become an advocate and all that. You know, shout out to you, Mikey. But
that's my brother. That's my brother's name.
Well, we're both from Massachusetts. I didn't even realize you were in Mass. That's awesome.
Where are you from?
I'm from the Worcester area.
No way, dude. I lived in Worcester.
No shit.
I'm from North Central Mass.
Okay, cool.
Winchendon.
Oh, okay. So right now, where I live now, I'm about like 15, 20 minutes south of there. Not even. I'm in like Leominster area.
Oh yeah, dude. I grew up there, man. I bought more drugs in Leominster and Fitchburg than anywhere, man.
Fitchburg, I can definitely attest to. And now we have a friggin' bike path that is beautiful looking, that's connecting our towns right together. And it's like, great. So I remember having a bike path in my town, in like my nice middle class cookie cutter town as a kid. And even there, that bike path was the best place to buy drugs. So now that's behind my house and I'm a family man now. Something doesn't add up.
Yeah. It's a tough area. It was definitely hit hard by this whole opioid epidemic, and
yes, it was.
I've lost so many friends, man, and my brother had some issues, and we had a scare with him, but he's doing a lot better now, and but man, it's just that community is so ravaged by all this stuff, and it's like that is one thing that I talked about on Ricky's show. I've been on his Patreon podcast.
Yeah, the ripple effect.
Yeah, and I was saying, you know, how like 90,000 overdose deaths last year, not a single mention of those. After you know, in 2016, remember while they were, you know, running for the selection, they were all talking about the opioid epidemic and how they were going to hold big pharma responsible, and you know, clean this whole thing up. And then of course 5 years later we have people losing their jobs because we'll get back to the Esalen stuff. I do want to talk about that, but I'll just go with this. Sure. Where like now we have people losing their jobs because they won't take a product from big pharma. Now, no trust or no liability, no trust. It's pretty simple. These manufacturers have zero liability.
Yeah, you can't sue them for just in case at this point in the game, anyone listening doesn't know that. Like these companies they can't be sued for vaccine injury. It's all gone. It's been revoked.
Ever since 1986, for all the other vaccines, they signed the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. So vaccine makers were hurting kids and humans, large humans as well. They were hurting all kinds of humans with these products. They went to government because they started to get sued and said, we will not make these anymore. And of course, the government wants vaccines, and they've wanted as many as possible for a long time. Because Rockefeller said we want a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. And ever since 1986, they said we're not going to make them anymore unless you give us blanket immunity. And of course, they are one of the biggest lobbies in Washington, Big Pharma. And since 1986, they've been completely immune from liability. And there's been, I think, over $4 billion paid out in vaccine adverse reaction claims through the vaccine court that steals money from you and me and my mom and my dad and my brothers and your wife and your kid. They steal money from us to pay for their failure and their harming of innocent humans.
It all comes right around to us.
They're all
we
convicted.
Give them the permission and we pay for it.
They're literally convicted criminals in a court of law. That's not even a debatable fact.
Yeah, look at Johnson & Johnson and their colorful history, and it's still going. It's unbelievable.
And they actually fund the CDC, Pfizer, places like Coca-Cola and Pepsi fund the CDC, Pfizer, Merck, all these companies. So wait a minute, you have vaccine makers dumping money into the organization that's supposed to regulate said vaccine makers. How does that exactly work? It works because you and I and the rest of us, we've allowed it.
Yeah, that's literally the golden key right there.
Yeah, it's what we allow. It's the exact amount of tyranny we see in the world is the exact amount we're willing to accept. Someone smarter than me said that, and I'm not sure who, but
that's true. And it's all about our consent.
Yeah.
And it's weird that so many of us don't kind of turn around and realize that. Well, when we do, there's always the ad campaigns and the propaganda and the pressure and the fear to fill in the blanks for all those folks, to send them right back over the line into the fear zone. And it's really sad. And I think
it doesn't take much. And I think I think the biggest reason for all this is why people fear death so much is because I think deep down on a spiritual level, they know they haven't lived. And
you took the words right out of my mouth.
I was saying some shit last year where I just kept hammering it and saying it to everyone I came in contact with. There's a cool little random podcast I did where I was in South Carolina and I drove all the way from Massachusetts to Charlotte. I drove from Massachusetts to Pennsylvania. I stayed in an Airbnb there. I drove from there to Kentucky. Met up with another friend there. Drove from Kentucky to Charlotte. My car overheated twice on the way there.
Wow, dude.
And it was Christmas Day, and it was snowing sideways. It was 20 degrees. I was right on the Tennessee, North Carolina border in the mountains of North Carolina. And it was Christmas Day, and I was my car overheated. I was off the side of a highway. I was like, Merry fucking Christmas, Andy. And actually, since then, I put some stop leak in the coolant line, and ever since then, I've had an oil change and a couple of minor things, but my car's been running great. But I got to South Carolina and met up with a friend of mine who I went to high school with, I grew up with. He was living in Greer, South Carolina. He's like, hey, come down here. There's more freedom. There aren't any mask mandates and all this. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll come spend the night. And we went down there and we went out to dinner and we went to a restaurant. like most of the businesses in the small little town didn't have any signs for masks or distancing or anything like that. So I was like, oh shit. Like we go out, have dinner, and like for a second there, coming from Massachusetts last year, that's where I spent all my year last year, was in Massachusetts. So I was like coming from there to like not seeing any masks, none of the wait staffs wearing them, nothing. And I was like, wow, I almost thought for a second, I was like, I kind of remember this. like I kind of remember this. There's a human there. There's a human behind making me a drink, and there's a human over there, and they're talking. And I was like, they're making eye contact. I'm like, wow. But yeah, I was basically, that was a long tangent of me saying that I did that I did this pop-up podcast where I had my camera, had my sombrero on. I put my hiking bag on and got my walking stick, so I like seemed like I was like a grifter kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping like people would be like, "Oh, what did you just hike the Appalachian Trail or something?" And I just wanted to go around and ask people like, "Hey, what does freedom mean to you?" You know, after in light of what we've seen, this was like the beginning of January this year.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, in light of what we've seen in the world, I'm like, what does freedom really mean to you? You know, and luckily there were two libertarians, so I didn't scare them away by talking about all this stuff. But I basically just said, you know, I'd rather die living than die in my living room, you know. And it's like, I heard that from somewhere. That wasn't my original thought. Like I heard it from somebody else, but I was just like, wow, that is so profound.
It's so real.
Tomorrow is just not guaranteed.
Right.
And it's, if we could just try to live in the present moment a little bit more.
Be here
we're just
now.
so caught up. It's like we are pressed. We are victims to many degrees, but you don't have to stay that way. You know, it's like we can overcome these things that have happened to us, that have traumatized us, that have put us in a little box, you know, our ideas, our hopes, our dreams, like all these things. Like you actually can be like the hero of your own journey, and you can be like the writer of your own story.
Absolutely, man.
And I'm kind of having fun with that. Like, yeah, I don't have a place to live. Like my girlfriend's worried as fuck about me, you know? So it's like, I don't like to worry her, but I keep trying to tell her, I'm like, if we don't do something to change like the level of thinking or consciousness of folks, and if I don't do as much as I possibly can to help with that, then we're not gonna have, you know, what is a future, you know, like, oh, you want me to go back and work and save money, so then the dollar just gets totally debased, and you want me to save up for my 401k? I don't know all the solutions. I don't pretend to have them either, but I know it's like the solutions are here. It's in connection, the connections we make, the love we experience. That's where the solutions come. Growing food together, you know. That's what we've been doing in Charlotte. I got here Christmas Day, like I said. My car broke down. I made it safely. I got to spend Christmas with my girlfriend and her niece and her nephew, and who I love, and they call me Uncle Andy. So, you know, it's like my family, my mom and my dad, I love them more than anything, but they canceled everything because of this whole, you know, COVID thing. So I was just like, I love my family. I'm like, but I gotta go. Like, I gotta go on an adventure. You know, I'm
no
just
time like the present.
I don't have kids, and I just came out of a really crazy time in my life where I'm like I'm starting to find true healing, and I'm on the path. Obviously it's an entire lifetime we spend on really doing that kind of work. But I mean, to go from a place of like not wanting to be here and being indifferent towards life as if I was, you know, like I was, to wanting to live. And now these people are like, yo, you can't get on a plane, and you have to have our permission to hug your grandmother. And it's like, my grandmother's 90. Did you ever ask her what she wanted? You know, Of course you didn't, but you did brainwash and mind control her into being scared, you assholes. You know, she took this fucking shot back in the end of March, and she almost died, dude. She was in the hospital for like 2 weeks. Yeah, she's 90 and she's not that healthy, you know, but she takes a lot of pharmaceuticals, but she's stubborn. She'd be alive for another 15 years if you left her alone.
Right, exactly.
You know? But now she's almost fucking dead, and my family's like, that's another crazy thing. Like that cousin I was telling you about that like told my brother, "Oh, get the vaccine." His dad, my mom's brother, like when he found out my grandmother was sick in the hospital, he didn't question whether the vaccine that she just had 2 or 3 days prior had anything to do with it.
No.
He tried to blame my brother, who is unvaccinated. But here's the thing: my grandmother lives with my mom and dad and my brother. And my brother like takes care of her and helps feed her and take care of her, and he like really loves her, just because he's not vaccinated. So it's like my uncle's blame, and my brother like. I had to talk my brother down, you know, where normally I would be the one enraged at that, and it didn't make me happy, but I had to like talk my brother off of like hurting my uncle, because he was so pissed off, because he's like, he's at the house taking care of my grandmother. My uncle, you know, I mean, he hadn't been coming around to like see how she was doing or taking care of her and stuff. And part of it's because of COVID and things like that. But that's not a good excuse, man. Like,
no.
If you're gonna listen, I mean, she's 90. Like, why are we I was like praying all the time last year that like, I'm like, if I could just get to my grandmother and sort of educate her and convince her like to say something to the broader family. You know, like, what are we doing? Like, why are we listening to the TV and to the government when like our family is dysfunctional as it is? Like, we were always pretty tight. Like,
yeah.
And we like did have Thanksgiving and Christmas, and you know, we did like have parties with like 30, 40 people, kids running around, craziness, you know, total mayhem. But that was our family, and we had differences in thinking and things like that, but it was never, you know. So I was just like praying that I could get to her last year and that she would have like said something. But I actually got a voicemail from my grandmother one time last year, and she was like watching some of my videos or something on Facebook.
Oh jeez.
And I was getting fired up, like, I'm not a fucking slave and all this, just all kinds of shit like that. Like, I remember I had to go visit my friend in a hospital, and they made me put a mask on. I called ahead of time and said, you can't do this. I have a medical condition. And like, I don't care. I'm like, so like on my Instagram, there's videos where like I take the mask. I'm like, I'm going to put this fucking mask on like the slave that you want me to be. And because there was no way I was going to go see my friend. He was like in a bad way. And I was like, fuck it, you know, act of compassion to get in there. It did hurt my soul. It actually felt like someone was behind me and like tying it, like I wasn't even the one tying it, you know. That's how forced like it felt
like a collar.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh, I was so put off by that. But yeah, what a crazy year it's been for all of us. But
I think we've all had to do that too, take one for the team and you know, wear it against our own will here and there. Like at first I was okay with like, you know, my typical self. I don't want to leave any more footprints than I am already leaving. And like, I don't want to scare somebody or piss somebody off or cause a scene or have someone's drama get in my face. So that's why I was wearing it for a while. And then I don't know what happened. It just, my take on it just escalated more and more and more. And suddenly a few months into it, I was like, yeah, all right. Our son is not ever putting on one of those again. I'm done. You know, to my wife, I was like, you can wear, you know, I know you bought a bunch of pretty ones. I never spent a dime on them. Well, I guess it's my money too. So damn it. She made me spend money on it without my knowledge. But I was at some point, it was just like done, absolutely done. And I would walk into so many stores around home and I was greeted pleasantly. I did not have one bad interaction. Now, granted, it only happened, man, maybe a little bit before this year. I can't remember exactly when I stopped, but I was only wearing them for a little while. And after that, it was just like, I couldn't deal with it anymore. I could not do it. Like the talking wasn't enough anymore. I had to live in my truth. I had to follow through. And I feel like a lot of us in this community are getting to that point, whether you're, quote unquote, newly awoken, or if you've been raging on conspiracy theories for 25, 30 years, whatever. Like, the time to stop turning our wheels and letting talking be the only thing we're doing, that's all over. And I think the original reason why I wanted to have you on is what you were telling us in the thread earlier, the Union of the Unwanted thread, about how you're going to these big rallies and all that. So I definitely want you to dive into that if you're ready.
Yeah, let's get into it. Do you have the schedule, the lineup of the rallies? I could pull it up on here if you want.
I do have it because you sent it in that thread.
I have it up right here if you want.
All right, cool.
I'll pull it up. Let's see. Zoom, share screen. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, man, to sort of set the context, I know we've kind of been just talking about life, and I'm so happy you're from Massachusetts, man. We probably crossed paths. Did you grow up there?
Yeah, man. I mean, I took off and I left and I got away and went to the West Coast. I lived in Oregon for quite a while and saw Texas stuff, but Massachusetts is my home, which has been a real point of contention the past year and a half, because everybody complains about the winter. I love the winter. I love Massachusetts, and it's been shitty to not like it.
Yeah, I know, man. Last year, I went hiking, and I was at Mount Watatic, which is like Ashburnham, but it's like right on the New Hampshire border.
I know exactly the one you're talking about. Yeah, it's like a little bit bigger than Wachusett.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not very big though. So I go out there hiking. I don't know, man. This was like probably August, September, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And like Charlie Baker just like changed the mask mandate to be outdoors and stuff.
Yeah.
So I go to Watatic and I start hiking, and the first 10 people I saw masked up in the middle of the woods hiking. And so then like I got to a point where actually I was counting them, like I was counting masked versus unmasked, like as I was hiking up. And the unmasked did win. It was like 24 to like 16 or something like that.
Jeez, close.
Yeah, it was a close race.
Tight.
Too tight, man.
I saw the same thing in New Hampshire, man. Yeah, go ahead.
But the first 10 were masked, and I remember getting close to the top, and I'm coming up on this couple, and they're walking down, and as they're like approaching towards me, they put their little gaithers up, and they like make like an arc to like walk like go out of their way to like arc around me, and I'm like, I had to stop him and say something. I was like, "Excuse me." I'm like, I don't mean to like be, confrontational here or anything. I'm like, but am I really that scary? That's what I said.
Yeah.
I said, am I really that scary? I said, I'm 36 years old. I'm healthy, and we're on a mountain. And one of the woman was like, oh, she's like, no, you're not that scary. She's like, I kind of wanted to give you a hug, but I was like, really? I'm like, you wouldn't say, you didn't want to give me a hug. You put your mask on and like walked around me like I'm some kind of a freak, So it's like, I remember having to deal with emotions of that. And it's just wild that people, like literally Vice News wrote a news story that said, and the title was, not hyperbolic at all, your body is a bioweapon. Like early on in the pandemic, like Vice News, hipster Vice News, has all these different cool shows, like, Hamilton Morris, who like goes out and investigates like different drugs and these kinds of things. And then they're trying to appeal to these young kids, and they put out garbage like that. Your body is a bioweapon.
Yeah, that's when they kind of turned the corner right around that time. That's when most of us were like, the fuck happened to Vice? What's going on here? They get new ownership? What's going on?
total insanity. But I was just getting the clock, so we'll just wrap it up here as we talk about this.
Oh yeah, sure.
I wish I could stay on all night, but I'm a little loud and these guys are trying to sleep. So
all right, well, hey man, I mean, we could totally jam for like 4 hours, I bet.
Oh my God,
totally
yeah.
fair. Let's just talk about this because I want people to know about what this is, you know.
Yeah, maybe we can maybe you could send it to me and I can clip it out. So
sure.
Basically, to set the context, the healthcare workers in North Carolina just got word from a number of these large hospitals you're seeing here on the screen: Cone System, Duke System, Charlotte, Goldsboro, Novant, Baptist. They've all required that all their workers get the COVID vaccine. Toxic experimental use.
Are these counties? These are all counties, I'm assuming.
These are Greensboro's like a city here. Charlotte's a city. Durham's a city.
Right. Okay.
These are different.
So these are just major cities in North Carolina, like Charlotte.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Different hospital systems. So tomorrow, Thursday, 7/29 at 10 a.m., there'll be nurses and doctors and healthcare workers and other health freedom advocates that will be up at this event in Greensboro. I've been to a few of these health freedom rallies in North Carolina. I haven't seen many people with video cameras, so I'm just going to go there with my video camera, try to get some interviews, support these folks in any way we can. Like, as much as, you know, I do disagree with the allopathic system and kind of I'm more of the holistic homeopathic. You know, our answers are inside of us and they're outside in nature. There's a lot of great folks that have deep knowledge on this stuff, like me in my example with, you know, overcoming my traumas with plant medicine, psilocybin. So, but we're going to go and support them out there tomorrow. I'm going to try to get to the one in Durham on Friday, and then I'll come back to Charlotte for the one on Sunday. And obviously Charlotte and Goldsboro are on the same day, so I won't be going to both of those. And then Novant is in Winston and Baptist is in Winston. So it looks like I'll be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 different events I'll be covering. So I would say, look, keep an eye out for footage coming out, interviews, and just trying to support these folks and have somebody cover it and give them a voice, because we can't allow this precedent to continue to be set, you know, where it's just, we need people to resist this.
We need people, common people that sounds terrible, common people, but you know, we just need everyday people to be aware that this is happening, because our media is not going to cover it, you know?
Yeah. Awareness for sure. And that's why I love this community that we've all built, and I think it's important to support one another. Like you said, man, we got to get away from these screens. I love talking and everything, but we got to talk out there. You know, they want us behind these screens, and
you know, man,
what they want.
I'm finding so many podcasters and content creators from like within 100-mile radius of me. So I mean, we'll be getting stuff going on in person. I mean, I want over the next year or so to all of us that in this community that communicate around the same area, I want us to get something together. I want to give back to the greater community and have, you know, some of us kind of head it up and like get some speakers and shit. Like, some podcasters have been doing this around the country now. And this is what I'm talking about, man. Like, it's time to leave the screens behind, like you said, and we can still get the message out, because I do still feel like, you know, everybody wants to just be love and light, but you kind of have a lot of people, me included at one point, you need to learn how screwed up everything is to kind of understand that you are not any of that. And that, like, or you are, but like, I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. People need to have that transformative experience somehow, some way, you know?
Yeah, I think the only true way that we get the world that we want is if people work on themselves just, you know, just a little bit, you know, to sort of get you to start thinking differently. And then once you start thinking differently, your whole world changes, you know? And
Absolutely.
it's like, it's a beautiful thing, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, dude.
Let's keep in touch, and maybe let's connect. Let's keep connecting offline, and we'll have some deeper conversations about Massachusetts. Anyway.
Hell yeah, dude. And just real quick, make sure to tell my audience where they can find you so they can watch this footage when you put it out.
Yeah, I think because of the nature of the footage, you're probably going to find it all on Odyssey. You see there on the screen, go within to get out. I'm going to try to post some stuff on YouTube. I'm probably going to have to clip small things to promote it, to get, because I'm trying to get all my audience off of YouTube and over to Odyssey, because, you know, Odyssey, I only have a few people that have come over. And everyone's still on YouTube, so we got to try to get, you know, people off of these platforms. And I mean, I don't even know if you'll be able to post this on YouTube. I don't think we got into the numbers of the vaccine stuff. But.
Well, we didn't go. I think we'll be safe with what we talked about for the most part. Plus, you know, we don't have the numbers that, you know, Union does, because I think the episode. I don't know if it was that one or the one before, but one of them.
The one we were on didn't even make it on YouTube.
No, and the one before that I was on with Judy Mikovits, that lasted for a little while, and then it was just long gone real fast. But I think we kind of fly under the radar so far. That's fine with me for now, to reach a little bit of a larger audience. But I do agree with you that it's just not participating in their reindeer games. That's the whole point. And no one gets it, because they fall into the opposite political party or this or that. Oh, we just got to get the right people into government. It's like, no, government is governing mind. Like, it's control. It's mind control. That's literally what it is. You don't need to get any good people in there. Get them out. You know, and that's I could ramble, like we've been saying, we could ramble for hours. But
yeah,
thank you so much, Andy.
I'll give a couple more solutions for your audience that really helped me. Freedomcells.org. Go there, sign up, create an account. That's this guy Derek Bros and John Bush. Some of your audience might know them, but that's a great solution to, like, you sign up. You say your general area, and then you find people on there, and then you can connect with them on Telegram. And then the idea is to meet them in person. You know, and sometimes it doesn't always work out. You have to drive a little ways, but if there's nobody in your area, be the first one in your area. You know, I mean, we have to
champion it.
We have to do whatever we can to just continue to meet people in you know, in real, actual reality outside of these screens. And that's what I'm trying to do with, like, the work that I'm doing, is like really be on the road. I'm trying to figure out how to, like, create a GoFundMe and try to ask for support. And that'll be my next thing, because I want to kind of do this, because I feel like I'm right at home, and I know there's people doing stuff like this. And now that we have connections with Ricky, I've been on his show like 3 times now, and he's a Boston guy.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to send him an email and ask him if I could come on his show and promote, you know, what I'm doing. Definitely. And I really feel like he'll probably let me. And, there's so many other people that I want to talk to. And just that guy, Steve from Slow News Day, he's got a pretty good
size. Awesome.
He is awesome. I resonate with him. He's a chain smoker. And that's the one last vice I got to kick, you know. It's like
I pretend to have quit the cigarettes.
Yeah, you did.
Totally pretending. Yep.
Oh man, so great catching up with you, and let's keep in touch, all right? And
absolutely, man.
I'll let you guys know when I get the video, and we'll go from there, man.
Yes, and I'll be posting this as soon as possible. I'll probably have it up tomorrow morning, just because I wanted this out as soon as possible.
Beautiful. Awesome.
All right, man. Take care. Good talking to you.
Have a great night, man. Later.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Deep Share Podcast. If you want to hear more, then hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all the social places. And remember, think for yourself, but don't always believe what you think. Till next time.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, vegetarian. Enough, I get the point.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature. and you will atone.
What do we know? What do we know? If I know what we know, then I can tell you what we know, and if someone else knows, okay? I mean...